I want to say thank you for joining us here on The Connection. Number one, subscribe, follow, like, share the energy, right? Let's jump right into this. I'm so excited because I have a special guest on today, and they're all special because if they're not on the show. When we talk about The Connection, we don't always notice all the connections around us. And I want to introduce you to Jodi Jefferson. I met Jodi at a wedding, right? No, not a wedding that we attended, a wedding that we worked at. But as busy as we are, I approached her because her work was amazing. She owns Busy Bee Bakery. And I just saw her creation. I was like, oh my gosh. Everyone else was like, oh my God, this is amazing. So I approached her. And when I approached her, we had a short conversation. Jodi, I want you to pick up from there. How did that conversation go? Take us back slowly and take your time. No rush. What do you remember from that day?
So I was so excited to meet you. It was at a wedding at the Bennington Barn. It was my first time doing an event at that venue, and it was such a beautiful venue. And I just absolutely love how my clients can bring me into these relationships with other people, no matter what they're doing. And that's exactly what happened that day with you and I. I was setting up this beautiful dessert charcuterie table for 300 people, which I had never done before. And so I was methodically taking my time with every piece and every detail of the table. And you just came by and just commented on the table, as I remember. And obviously it just calmed me and made me feel like, what I was doing was right and it looked good. Because again, it was my first time doing a charcuterie dessert table, which was what the bride's vision for her special day, obviously. And we just struck up a quick conversation. And it just went in a whole different direction from what I would have ever anticipated. From what I recall, we talked about how my mom and I, in the last 3 years, have done a mother-daughter Thanksgiving bake sale for charity. How this next year, in 2022, we were currently looking for our charity partner for this year. And this was, I think, back in March, April, May timeframe.
Yes.
So yeah, just trying to prepare and set our hearts on what was going to be best for our mission this year. And me being a veteran myself, I knew this year it needed to be something that dealt with veterans. In the previous years, we had done something that touched the hearts of our church in 2017. Our first year was 2017, I believe. 2018, we touched the hearts of the folks at the Rainbow House. And then in the next year, we did the Mustaches for Kids, which touches the lives of many children in the Omaha area. And so this year, I knew as a veteran myself, we needed to do something to help the veterans that struggle. I myself struggle with severe anxiety and have seen many fellow servicemen and women that have struggled themselves, and also a very close friend who had unfortunately taken her own life because of mental illness due to her time in the service and prior things that she struggled with. And so it's very important that we take care of those veterans. And so, again, Jay and I just got to talking that night as I was setting up this table, and I was briefly explaining like that we were looking for a charity and I wanted it specifically to be for veterans. And he said, I think I've got what you're looking for. And just a couple short days later, he sent me this amazing video of what the 50-mile march is all about. And immediately, like as soon as I watched the video, I was like, yes, absolutely. We are all in 100% with this. And since that day, I followed their journey. I followed their preparation for their march in August. And I mean, like, it was just amazing. Like, I followed up until the day that they marched. I vividly remember the day before sending Jay a message saying, we're thinking about you. I remember going to church with my children on Sunday, the day that they were marching, and saying, when we get out of church, we're going to find this group of people because I know they're going to be in our area. And we found them at near 132nd and Prairie Queen Lake. And
I have goosebumps right now.
My kids flew flags outside of the car and we cheered you on. And then we ran home and we packaged up some cookies and we ran them up to the brewery and we dropped them off. And then as we were coming back home, you guys were just crossing 120th and Giles, and we waved you on some more, and we told you about the incredible crowd that was waiting for you at Nebraska Brewing Company. And if it weren't for my son's football game that afternoon, we would have absolutely been there, just cheering you on, because what an amazing thing that you guys did that day. Immediately that day I went home and I signed up to walk for 2023.
Yes.
And I'm proud to say that since that day, I have walked 4 miles every day.
Wow.
I have made time before meeting Jay and learning about the 50-mile march. I didn't have time, and recently I listened to a church sermon that talked about time and how we make time for what's important for us.
Yes.
And we all have 24 hours a day. And before this, it was easy to say, I don't have time. But now I make time. I make time for that 1 hour a day.
Gosh.
And not a day has gone by that I haven't thought about Amy. Amy is the reason that I will walk 50 miles in August of 2023. And Amy is behind my left shoulder.
I will make sure that we put a picture up as well.
She's a beautiful soul. And Amy could not let go of the demons that followed her. And I will make time. We often say that we will never forget when someone passes, and it's easy to forget. It's easy to not think about those people every day. But not a day has gone past in the last 30 days when I have walked for 1 hour that I have not thought about Amy Gilliland. And not a day will go by until August of 2023 when I walk that 50 miles for Amy Gilliland.
Amen. You will. Let's, I want to back up and honor your entire story. You set a great framework. I want to bring perspective because I love your heart, your energy, and what when I met you, I'll take us back. When I met you, there are people that you converse with, and then there are people you connect with. There's a difference. I praised your work because it was impeccable. People were gawking. They were like, oh, wow. And, let's be honest. There's a lot of people in this space, Jodi. But I remember with grace, as people were almost overstepping, like, like almost wanting to touch the table, you handled it with grace. I'll be honest. I was like, everyone get back. I didn't say that. But the time you took to prepare, I thought that was your 140th time. let's be honest. I didn't know it was your first time. It's not amateur when your heart's in it, right? It's never amateur when your heart's in it. So I want to praise you for that. Number two is, I heard what you said. You know, I'm so glad we connected, you know, and with the veteran background. And when you meet people, you detect energy. That's all I care about. When someone says, "Oh, do you like Jodi? Do you like, you know, Matt? Do you like Dave?" I don't like people, Jodi. I am attracted to energy. So when somebody says, "Oh, would you like to work with these people on this project?" It's not a matter of like, it's I'm attracted to the energy. So yes, I will work on that project. I can tell when someone is all the way in and all the way out, or semi, you know, I don't have time. I don't have time for semi-lukewarm. So I want to go back and let's talk about your business for a minute, because I want to celebrate that. And I'm going to put that here on the screen. But while you talk about it, tell me where Busy Bee started and where it's grown, and just tell the viewers that story. And I'm going to bring that up on the screen right now.
Wow. So I can't really put a date or time on when Busy Bee started. So I was stationed in Washington, D.C. From 2003 until 2013. During that time, I flew from 2003 to 2005. I flew with Secretaries Rumsfeld, Condoleezza Rice,
Wow.
Colin Powell, Vice President Cheney, Mrs. Bush, a lot of dignitaries. And then in 2005, I was very fortunately hand-selected to become a part of the Presidential Airlift Group, where I flew with Presidents Bush and Presidents Obama, their staff, their families. And during that time, I baked for them, I cooked for them, them and their staff. And so just such a fortunate event. And during that time, this was before I had children, of course. And so I had the time. I built up a clientele there, and I was able during my downtime to bake and cook for those individuals. So it was very difficult, as you know, when you're in the military and you move from one duty location to another.
Yes.
It's just like a hairdresser or anyone else who really relies on their clientele to build that back up.
Yes, you got to start over. Tell the story over again.
Absolutely. So when I moved, fortunately, on a humanitarian assignment in 2015, I was able to get stationed back home to Nebraska, basically because due to the unfortunate circumstances of my mom having terminal cancer and my husband also dual military PCSing to Korea. At the time, we had 6-month-old twins and a 3.5-year-old. So I decided that the best route forward was for me to put in a humanitarian assignment.
Yes.
Closest to my family. And fortunately enough, Offutt did have flight attendant positions at the time. So I was able to come to Offutt or come home as a flight attendant. So there I flew on the E4.
Yes, the E4Bs, is that right? Am I E4B? Is that right?
Yeah, E4B, flying on the NEOC or the Doom 18, flying with the Secretary of Defense when he flew abroad. And so I was able to fly with them, be at home, helping my mom, but also her helping us while my husband was in Korea. Yeah. And I fully believe that God has a plan, and that is the sole reason that my mom is still with us today. Because she retired from her job in Kearney, she moved, she lived with me in base housing and took care of my kids while I was flying. And she was a full-time grandma, and she knew that her grandkids needed her.
Yes.
She knew that her own kids needed her. And I fully believe that 10 years later, she is still fighting pesky cancer. but she's still with us. And so we praise him for that every day. And we thank him every day for that. During that time, I flew for 5 years on the E4. It was probably the most difficult time of my career. When I was at the Presidential Airlift Squadron, flying on Air Force One, I was in my comfort zone. I was a technical expert. I loved what I did. I was behind the scenes, and I made the magic happen.
Yes.
Then I came to Offutt, and I was very quickly taken out of my comfort zone. I was put in a leadership role, which I had never really been groomed for. I didn't really know how to take care of people. So it was very difficult for me. I'm a people pleaser. And so it was hard to make 20 to 25 flight attendants happy because I was used to being behind the scenes, making the magic happen and making people happy that way. All while my husband was gone. My mom was sick and I had 3 little babies. So it was difficult. It was by far the most difficult time of my career and probably what caused my severe anxiety, I would imagine.
Yes. I want to unpack something, Jodi. You said people pleaser. Okay. First of all, thank you for being brave enough to say that because there are people that will not admit it. And that's a real thing. I love to please people as well. Can I ask you a question? How do you use that for your superpower instead of just a weakness though? Do you see that as a weakness or do you see it as a superpower or both?
That's tough. I think
that's why I do this.
I think in my current role, I can use it as a superpower because I can be honest with people and I can really tell them if I'm comfortable creating or recreating their vision. If I'm not, I can easily decline. I'm very particular myself when it comes to how I want something to look. So if a client comes to me with a certain design, and I don't feel, again, I'm completely self-taught. So if it's something that I don't feel comfortable making or creating for them, I will gladly tell them that because I'm not here to fake the funk.
Right.
And when I was in
can't do that.
I didn't have a choice but to fake the funk if I didn't know what I was doing, honestly. And that was hard for me because I couldn't make 20 or 25 flight attendants happy. There was no way.
Right.
Because I might have made 15 happy. I might have made 24 happy and one wasn't happy. And that would just weigh on me. And in such an unhealthy way, there was a very low point where, again, my husband was gone and I drove myself to the hospital and I was at such a low point and just stress induced. I thought I was dying because I didn't know what was happening. I had never been that stressed before. One of my twins was at home that day because she was already sick. And I thought, you know what, there is no way I can go home and take care of these 3 children in the condition that I'm in. And later did I find out that it was all stress induced.
Yes.
And so stress is a real thing.
Absolutely.
It can consume our bodies in physical ways and not just mentally and emotional ways. And so educating people, on the signs to look for and that it really can take control of you and your life, even when you least expect it.
Think about this, Jodi. Hand selected, decorated, and hand selected amongst your peers to be at the elite service of, the nation's leadership, and probably crisp in the uniform as well, and just really focused on people and making sure she did her job well. That describes Jodi. But what they don't see is the brave Jodi here unfolding in front of us, telling us the truth. There's someone listening right now, Jodi, saying, oh my gosh, me too. Jodi, there's someone listening. If they were listening to you right now, what's the best bit of advice if they can identify with what you're talking about? There's somebody struggling right now, and they're listening, and they're saying, oh my gosh, I need help. But talk to that person.
Yeah, so unfortunately, when you're in uniform, holding the most top secret of top secret security clearances, you're told, just figure it out, handle it. If you go to mental health, there's a stigma that comes with that. And so unfortunately, we're just trained to carry that. And for 21 years, I carried that. And I remember that day that I went to the hospital thinking I was dying, calling my husband later while he was in Korea, and him basically talking me off the ledge, saying it's
Yes.
going to be okay. Even that next day, it was like, don't go to mental health. You have a top secret security clearance. You have
Are you crazy? You're going to lose it all.
Yeah,
right?
You have an SCI. You have a Yankee White. You don't want to put it on the line. And now that I'm retired, I do go to the VA and I do see a provider at mental health. And we talk about ways that I can cope with it. And sometimes, things that she tells me, as simple as the amount of caffeine that I intake, or the amount of sleep that I get, or the 10 minutes of relaxation exercises that I can find on a YouTube VA site. I mean, those are simple little things that can really change your day.
They sound very simple, but they're not practiced.
They sound very simple. And even to this day, I struggle with putting that 10 minutes, 15 minutes in my calendar, and making it a priority. I do feel like the hour that I take to walk every day now for 30 plus days, that is something that I look forward to.
Yes.
I make it a priority. Before, it was so easy to just say, I don't have time. But now it's, where am I going to fit it in? I'm not a morning person, but there's been days where the only time to do it is at 5.
Yes.
Because I have caterings, I have cakes, I have this, I have that. And so I've made it a point. Those days it might be slower. Those days I haven't had my caffeine yet, but I've gotten it done. And so I think making that change is huge. And today I knew I was coming on here, and I often pass the L Street corridor near the Home Depot and the Sam's, where, if you're familiar with that area, you know that there's often several homeless people that you'll find.
Absolutely.
Along
because
that
it's
area.
A hub of a big intersection and easy access and high traffic.
It is. And during the summer months, I made it a point that if I was in that area with my children and I felt compelled, there was a couple times where we saw the same gentleman, and my children pointed him out, and I said, yeah, we're going to help him. We're not going to give him money because I don't think that that's appropriate. But what we will do is we will go into Walmart and we will buy him a meal, and I'm going to let you guys pick out that meal. And then I'm going to let you guys give him that meal when we get to the stop sign. And so we did that a couple times over the summer. Today I encountered a different gentleman, and obviously it wasn't the same man, but I'm always intrigued by what their sign says. And this gentleman's sign said that he was a veteran, and that he was just recovering from a 9-month illness, and that he was looking for work. And as I sat at that stop sign, I did have money in my purse. I had nothing else to give him. I refused to give him money because I felt that if he had an addiction, it would only fuel that addiction.
Yes.
But I did wonder to myself, why, as a veteran, is this man sitting at a stop sign? If all this man needs is work, why has someone not picked him up and taken him to the appropriate place and given him the work that he's asking for? And so that's why I feel so compelled to help with the 50-mile march, because there's so many veterans, no matter what their struggle, whether it be addiction, whether it be mental health, whether it be they just fell on a bad time. Mr. Hernandez, was that his name?
Ron Hernandez, yes.
Yes, that spoke at the dinner about the family that worked at the restaurant. They literally were just at the wrong place at the wrong time, and they were working hard to provide for their family. They were just in the wrong industry at the time, and it happened to just take them out. How can we hope to get veterans the help that they need?
Number one, Jodi's, we have to, you and I, together with the whole Army, the whole squadron, we have to walk the walk by educating people who don't know, right? And we don't know everything either. We're learning as we go on this journey. And Jodi, the reason why there is a gap is because the people who are able are not well equipped enough by organizations to learn how to engage. Like Jodi, when friends tell you, oh my gosh, I'm having a hard time. Isn't that hard enough when a friend tells you they're having a hard time? You know them, you trust them, you like them, and then you carry this burden, and then you're like, oh my God, I don't know what to do with my hands. But I can tell you that if you and I are this close to the issue, you and I are this close, we are in the face of that demon, right? We know what he looks like. But how many people are, here's my donation, thanks, I don't want to engage, I don't want to look, I don't even know where to drop them, press this for one, dial 8. There's so many billboards, and I know I'm going on and on, Jodi, but what I'm saying is, you and I, our job is to wake up the general population who is on autopilot right now in their comfort zone. And I'm not asking them, how dare they not? I'm saying, please help. Please share the word.
It's as simple as this is, think of tunnels to towers. I donate to them. That's a national organization. Think of the 50-mile march as the Tunnels to Towers of Omaha.
Yes.
I mean, this is touching lives. This is touching those lives that you see on those street corners, at those stoplights.
Yeah.
So we have to make this relatable to the people that are right here in our community. I donate to Tunnels to Towers, and I think it's an amazing organization, and the things that they do are incredible. And I think we can do that. I know that we can do that right here in Omaha.
And,
again,
I agree.
I have an entire list of things that I can't wait to talk to you about, of ideas, because when I get something, I'm like, shoot for the stars, and if we get turned down, we get turned down. But you're never going to go back and say, I wish I would have. Right. I'd rather say so-and-so told me no than I wish I would have.
Yes, absolutely. So Jodi, let's talk about that. So, you said, hey, I go to the VA. Jodi, when people see you, when I saw you, oh, successful caterer, successful chef, successful baker, the label. Oh my gosh, she must have her stuff together. And now you're saying, wait a minute, I go to the VA for help. I want people to pay attention to that. Here's a fully capable person who's being authentic and being vulnerable and saying, I'm getting help. But Jodi, here's what we hear. VA's terrible. And so, listen, here's what's terrible. The connection is the conduit is because if we can get the gentleman you're talking about to the center, there's a system for them to vet him. Why he doesn't go, that's a whole nother issue. But what programs are there to say, you're a veteran? All right, let's verify, because there's a verification process that you can do with them. Did you know that? It's an app, and I need to get that. If they tell you enough information, you can verify them that they were either active duty or served at one time, I should say. It's a database, but we're not doing that. Plus, I don't want to talk to the crazy person. Oh, they're dangerous. I get it. I'm not condoning jump out of your car and start praying the rosary. I'm not saying that. I'm saying, okay, how do we get this? How do we equip the right people? And I believe the 50-mile march, our mission is to bridge that gap. I don't want to go into the details of the 50-mile march because that's not important. What's important is Jodi's story. So now I want to relate, to your mission and how your bakery, your Busy Bee Bakery connects with your mission and your heart. You said something very profound to me, and you said it, like, hey, I've been blessed beyond my grateful cup. I need to give back. Can you tell me what that's like when you do that and you're playing in your gift, like you are just in your gift? What does that feel like to you?
Yeah, so I was raised in a church home, and it was instilled into me and my sister at a young age that we were to give back. We were to give back to our church and give back to our community. And we always gave back to our church, our 10%. And then I can remember small things giving back to our community as kids. I grew up in Hampton, Nebraska, which is about 2 hours west of Omaha, a tiny little town. Mm-hmm. Joined the military shortly after high school. But I just have vivid memories of raking leaves for the elderly, singing Christmas carols to the elderly, doing little things like that. Not huge things, not like, we weren't moving mountains. These were just little things that made people happy and were expected of us as children of our community.
You said you're not moving mountains. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but this is so good. Okay. I love your modesty and your humbleness and your gratitude, right? I can feel it, but okay, we're not moving mountains. Okay. But your mom did. And here's how she moved mountains. Your mom set the example. The ripple effect is so strong that even in a body of water, the smallest pebble can go from one wave from one end to the other. So let's talk about the mountain for a second. Your mom or your mom and dad or your family, when you were kids, there's three things you can give: time, talent, and treasure. Time, talent, and treasure. Those are the three things every human can give, right? Some choose time. Some say, here's my check, take my treasure. And some people say, here's my talent. Jodi, don't ever say you didn't move mountains. I get it, right? Maybe it wasn't writing a check for $147,000 at the time you were raking leaves, but your mom moved mountains with her actions because it's going to you. And then guess what you're going to do? Your ripple effect plays into the 50-mile march. It plays into honoring, your friend. It goes into honoring all these veterans, and it goes to someone listening to this podcast going, I can be Jodi. I can be her right now. So sorry, I just needed to lean into that for a second.
Yeah, I love it. So yeah, that's just how I was raised. And then being in the military, there was plenty of times where you're just grinding it out as an airman. You're doing what you're supposed to be doing, plenty of community service along the way.
Yeah.
But I felt when I was a flight attendant at Air Force One, I actually looked it up earlier, and I want to say it was 2009. So I got hired there in 2005. And then a few years after, I decided to start a Thanksgiving bake sale there, which seemed kind of crazy, but I started it on my own. And it basically, the first few years was to raise money for our annual Christmas party. Yeah. And it was very in-house. We had a couple hundred people that worked there, and I had a set menu, same thing. And I would bake a bunch of stuff and I would sell it. And then I would basically turn that money over to the front office, and they would use that money to help kick off our Christmas party. Well, after about 3 years of doing that, it was like, okay, I want to see, I want to reap some benefits, and I want to see where these dividends are going.
Right.
And so I said, okay, this year, I think it was in 2009, I said, we're going to do the same bake sale, but all of the money that we raise, we're going to take it and we're going to go up to Bethesda, Walter Reed, and we're going to talk to some wounded warriors, and we're going to find out what they need. We're going to purchase magazine subscriptions. We're going to purchase tablets. We're going to purchase gift cards.
Yes.
We're going to make a difference in more than just the lives of people at the Presidential Airlift Group.
Yes.
And tonight, as I was preparing for this, I scrolled way back in my phone, and I found those pictures, and I found pictures of about 10 flight attendants standing around the bedside of a few men that, I don't know why they were there. I don't know what limbs were missing. But what I do know is that we made a difference that day. We may not have made a difference that year, that month, but that day. And it might have been a CD at the time. It might have been a tablet that gave them independence, something to take their mind off of what they were going through. And in those pictures was my friend Amy. And it just made it all the more real as to why I'm doing this, because I'm sorry.
No, do not apologize.
That's just what she would have wanted. That's how we were raised at Presidential. That's how I was raised. We were raised to care about people, not ourselves, but those that needed something. And so it was nice to look back on those pictures and be able to know that we made a difference that year. And so after I left there, obviously, with my family, my husband going to Korea, my mom's health, having 3 small children, moving to Nebraska, it was hard to just immediately jump back into another bake sale. So it took a couple of years. And then in 20.
So you went dormant? You went dormant on baking? You left your gift for a while?
I was doing it for the E4B for the crew. It wasn't Air Force One. It wasn't a clientele, on the side. It was, I was trying to keep my head above water with 3 babies and a full-time
Yes.
career.
Wow. Jodi, I feel your passion and I hear some of your pain come out, which is healthy, right? And blessed are the people who watch this because they will see who you are and whose work you're doing, obviously. You know what I mean? And I don't say that lightly. I'm not afraid to profess my faith because those who are not with him are, or can't be against me. You know what I mean? So my point is you never know who you're going to meet. And in the last 10 minutes here, we've journeyed through a lot here. I want to talk about, yes, part of baking, you bake with your mother. Is that correct?
Correct.
The joy from that, the wins from that, the memories made from that, the spoiled recipes maybe, right? Or, oh my gosh, it was in the oven for too long. Hopefully not a lot. The laughs, those can never be taken away from you. And tell me what role your mother plays in your business now and, how she's involved and how it keeps her going.
Yeah. So growing up, my dad was a carpenter. He owned his own business, and my mom stayed at home until we were school age. And then she worked at the school as a secretary. But she always baked, and I was the chubby kid. There was just always sweets in my dad's lunchbox. There was always cookies and bars and rolls and all the good stuff. And so yeah, I mean I took an interest in what she was always doing in the kitchen. I wasn't right up on her, but I always took an interest. And my grandmother, in fact, she was very short, and she had a short counter that was short enough for her to roll out dough. And so it was just something that was fun when we were little. We got to roll out dough on grandma's counter. And so, yeah, I just remember as a kid being able to do those things with my mom and my grandma, and didn't really think much of it as I got older, as I transitioned to the military, and then just kind of started making some of my mom's recipes as I got older. And now that I'm back in Nebraska, it's just so comforting to have her come over and spend time. She's my dishwasher. She will undeniably tell you that that's what she's there for. She's not there to give me tips and tricks, and she says I can do it better than she ever did it, but I give her all the credit. And more importantly, when she comes over, we just have great conversation. We usually turn on some music and we jam, and we just talk about people back home, or we just catch up on how things are going. And with her cancer and her been fighting it for 10 years now, I mean, I really just cherish those moments that we get to spend together, because being in the military for 21 years, she could have been gone a long time ago. And so for her to still be with us and have the ability to come over and enjoy spending time with me, and usually taking home at least one of my kids on a weekend for an overnight, is just priceless. And I wouldn't trade it for anything.
It brings her joy. It brings her joy, and it brings you joy. And I want to remind you this. These are living memories that you are creating. Your mother is living, and she's enjoying herself, and you are serving her as her daughter. You know what I mean? And you are bringing her joy by, when my kids imitate me without me telling them, when my son went to keto without me telling him, when my son, does the things that come out of his mouth because I've said them to him and I can hear it with his friends, there's nothing more powerful, nothing more moving than that. I would rather have that. And if I could never, ever order anything from Amazon again, I would trade it all for that, right? I'm saying our kids are everything to us. And I bet when your mom looks at you, she doesn't need to say she's proud. You already know. Like, I want my son to cook Filipino food. Do you understand? But I'm not going to tell him that. I just want to set it, the example. I want him to say, okay, my daughters love it. My son loves it. But I cooked because I adored my mother. I cooked because I loved what she did forever. She made people happy, Jodi. I mean, it's amazing what you can do with, a chicken thigh and some onions, right? Like, it's friggin' incredible. Sometimes I'm like, where do we get the chicken thigh? Is this chicken? Okay. Anyway, that's the gift that we bring, because when you take away all of our money, when you take away our shelter, the power that we retain is the power to host or serve. You can take away all my money, Jodi. You can take away all of the things that I've earned. I can start all over, but you can never take away my service to my mission, to what I'm doing. I will do this if I'm broke. I will do this if I'm rich. I will do this if I'm sad, mad, or happy. I will serve those who serve this country without waver. I will give them the first bite, the last sip. I want them to have a seat at the table. Matter of fact, I want to bring the table to them.
Amen.
And that's just not the talk. That's real stuff. But I want to switch gears. 50-mile march. You signed up for this. So I want to tell you something. Most people only live at 60% of their capability or their threshold, right? Most people aren't living 100% on life, And I can prove to you that even myself the other day aren't living 100%. So I am going up to my car, and my car has automatic trunk open. Doesn't matter what kind of car it is. It just has automatic trunk open. And I put my foot under, right? And I put my foot under, right? And I'm like, what the, Mr. Entitlement came out, and I was living that spoiled baby brat life. And I went on for about 5 minutes, and I started calling the dealership, on my phone. I'm like, I need to speak to my salesperson because I can't believe. I was like, wait a minute. This is an automatic trunk pop open, right? So I wasn't living to my 100% because I was living to my 50% lazy self. So here's what I'll tell you. Jodi, you will go through suffering here. You will find out your 60% very quick. You'll enter your 70% and then your 90%. Then you will find out, am I going to finish this? What am I made out of? Is this really for Amy? Was this a publicity stunt for me? Am I digging into myself? Oh my gosh, the things I've shared. And then you're going to have that. And it's going to hit you. I don't know if it's 2:00 in the morning, 5:00 in the evening. I don't know. But everyone gets hit because, Jodi, when you suffer, when you lean into the pain, glory appears, right? Because every hard trial you've been through your life, Jodi, on the other side, guess what? It's been glorious. Thank God the door closed. I went back and I bought the building, right? Who cares about the door? Thank God, the timing worked out the way Jodi said, like, okay, we were going to try to do some things. Nope. Next year. I was like, oh man, next year. Okay. But our time wasn't ready. It's now. So Jodi, what worries you most about yourself on this 50-mile march? Have you processed that yet? Have you leaned into that yet?
Yeah. So every day over this 30 days, I've thought about, can I do it? Am I strong enough? 4 miles is no comparison to 50 miles. Am I doing enough hills? Am I doing it fast enough? What pace are they going at? I mean,
yes.
This is every day as I'm walking, and I'm thinking about Amy, and I'm thinking about, my bakery and what I have to do when I get home, and my kids and dinner. And, it's amazing the thoughts that can race through your mind over an hour's time frame. So yeah, I've thought about it all. My family thinks I'm crazy, and I've told them, yes, I'm crazy.
I am too.
But I need your support in this craziness. I need your prayers. I need your thoughts. I need your motivation. It's going to suck.
Yes.
Get that. I've already scraped off blisters off my feet over the last 30 days.
Wow.
So yeah, it's time for a new pair of shoes already. Like, am I wearing the right socks? I mean, yeah, like the questions are endless. I'm
going to coach you, right?
I'm not giving up. Like, and I'm going to come out and say, like, even when I was active military and my watch has reminded me, like, this is your longest move streak, And so I think you had brought up something the other day about something that a long amount of time. And is it worth giving that up? No matter what it being, whether it's a move streak or giving up a bad habit. And so those are milestones, good or bad, that are worth celebrating, and they're worth cheering each other on. And now, again, like I said, something that I didn't have time for before has been built in as a part of my day. And I look forward to that being the case for the next 11 months and hopefully for many years after that.
Jodi, I just want you to know, we're welcoming you into our tribe, not just for merit, but for character, right? Because if we surround ourselves and we keep this tribe with the right mind aligned and just, if your heart's right, I can tell, man. I can tell, like, I just love people who fake the funk, right? Like, really, I can hear their reason why. I can hear their reasons why not. And you are inspiring to me because you are a living example of what authentic transparency, being a real human, saying, I am struggling. I have anxiety. When you spoke at our dinner, I was like, I'm not crying. She's crying. We're all crying. But I want to talk about the special bake sale, and then we're going to land it. But I want to take our time here, and I don't care if we go over because we're going to make this a 3-part series. Okay. You raised a lot of money for a lot of people because of your connection to those people. And I just want to recap it. Last year, you raised, if you don't mind me saying, $10,000 with Mustaches for Kids, right?
Yeah.
When I get behind something, and I'm glad we connected. When you said October something, I was like, that's so far. I couldn't wait. And I know we have more ideas, but so here's what we're going to do. We're going to give a call to action here. I'm going to place it on the screen. I'm going to make sure that people know about this. I want you to talk about what we're doing, very detailed. I want to make sure the order process to you is very clear. And let's rock this because I'm going to social media it. I'm going to change the banner on my Facebook. I'm going to email our database. I'm going to make calls. I'm going to have my wife call all our real estate clients. I'm going to have my wife order for her real estate clients. She's got a team of 8 people. She's going to make sure that they order for their clients. Like, Jodi, just know, like, it takes 19 times for it to sink in, right? Not 6, not 9, 19. We want to rock this. Talk about it. And I want people to hear your excitement. And I'm going to share it on the screen right now.
Awesome. So just a quick recap. The first year that we did this, our church was looking for money to raise money for the Parent Life Ministry. We attend Calvary Christian Church. So that first year, my mom and I got together. We brainstormed actually as we prepared for my 20th high school reunion. We were at a quick bar in Grand.
Are you even that old enough?
We were having a drink and I was like, hey, Mom, what do you think about this? And how can we raise some money? And we actually have accounts through Thrivent Financial.
Yes.
Yeah. And so Thrivent Financial offers an action team project once a year or twice a year, depending on the types of accounts that you have. And so our financial advisor had told us about this one-time thing that we could do, or annually, and we could get a little kickstart. And so we took advantage of that, which gives us $250 to buy our ingredients. So that first year, the first year that we did it, again, we were able to raise $2,400 to help purchase a vehicle for Parent Life Ministries for Calvary Christian Church. It was such a success that we decided the next year that we would do it. And choosing our charity partner that year was rather easy because we had a family friend who lives out in Lexington, Nebraska. They have a son who has Down syndrome, and they frequently travel to Omaha. And because they live a certain distance away from Children's Hospital, they were able to stay at the Rainbow House. And the Rainbow House is kind of like Ronald McDonald House, where they put people up all times of the year, 365 days a year, depending on where they live and what their children are, in town for in regards to medical needs. So that year we were able to raise $6,400. That was our second year, which we were incredibly blessed to be able to bless those families during the holiday season with some, extra spending money around the holidays when they weren't anticipating being away from home in the Omaha area for Christmas. And then last year, M4K, Mustaches for Kids, has been kind of on my radar for a few years because a lot of those guys that grow are military guys.
Yes.
Which I was super close with on the E4B. And it was something fun for them to do. They're all about doing crazy things, pushing the limits when it comes to the regulation. They're really good at that. And
I
so
love it.
had mustaches, down to here, up to
3510, Air Force Regulation 3510, right? Was it still 3510?
That's changed so much. We could tell you. But yeah,
so old.
Let's say handlebars. They were working on handlebars.
Yes.
And so, some of the great guys from the E4 and the other guys from Offutt had a team. And so last year we worked really hard and we did a lot of different promotions. And we were able to raise over $10,000. At one point I said, hey guys, what do you think is best? The year prior, they had won Sexiest Workplace in America. And so they were working to keep that last year. But we decided that if my $10,000 check could either keep them as Sexiest Workplace in America or get them closer to raising $1 million, I left the ball in their court. And they decided towards the end that raising $1 million was more important. And so what they did is they strategically used that $10,000 check in part of a match fund, which they do, which then in turn raised an additional $70,000, which actually put me over the $1 million mark.
Wow.
So I actually got to attend that event, Stash Bash, and where they revealed the total amount raised. And had it not been for that $10,000 and that matching that they had done, they would have not raised that $1 million. And so it was just such an incredible night to see local dollars touching local lives. And,
there's the mountain, by the way. The mountain, by the way.
And the church that we go to, we live by a mission of live and love like Jesus. And I'm not here to get rich. I never joined the military to get rich.
Really?
Wow, surprise.
Right.
But God has blessed me. He has blessed me with a beautiful family. He's blessed me with a beautiful home. He's blessed me with parents who love me, that are still with me. And so that's more than enough. That's
Yes.
more than enough when I look around. And so,
Wow.
yes, I could be greedy. I could want more. I could want the next best thing. But I have enough. And I think as a society, we need to start to discover what is enough. There's a saying that I've read recently on a Facebook post, I wish you enough. And it's, are you familiar with the story I'm talking about?
No, I love what you're saying though. Keep going, elaborate.
Yeah, it was a story. I believe it was a grandmother who always said, I wish you enough. And that was just her saying to everyone. And if you think about the meaning behind that, it's not, you can't measure it.
Right.
But it's enough. What is your enough? And yes, would I love to have the, I don't know, Lulu leggings or the Louis Vuitton or the
Yes.
whatever, you name it. Would I love that? Yeah, but I have enough,
Yes.
My drawers are overflowing.
Yes.
I have more than enough.
Yes.
And so when I see the gentleman on the corner of 108th and L, and I question, why doesn't he have enough? Or what is enough for him? How do we get him to he has enough? That, to me, is more fulfilling than the Lulu or the Louis.
Yeah.
So those are the things. And again, when I left that man today at that stoplight, I was almost upset with myself because I didn't know, okay, if this man is a veteran, how come no one has helped him? How come no one has stopped him? How come, is he lying? You start to question all those things. And
everything.
So where do we get to the point where we can verify that person is a veteran, and then we escort them to the help they need? Because it's one thing to be down on your luck as a civilian, unfortunately, but going back to 50 Mile March, if you're a veteran, we owe it to those people for sure.
Jodi, wow, I'm blown away. Usually podcasts last 22 minutes, but this is going to be a 3-part series, which I love. And I'm going to ask you one more question. And while I'm asking you the question, if you have a question for me, great, that you want me to answer, I will. But if it's not, you can pass it and save it for another time. Here's my final thought, or I'm asking you to give perspective, because I think your eyes are different than mine, and your eyes are different than your neighbors. And the way you see things, when we have a country divided, and I'm not talking about politics, I'm just talking about the distractions of life. And we're disagreeing, and we're fighting, and we're throwing missiles back and forth, and we're in the streets rioting, and the media and all this other garbage. How do you stay centered, or does it distract you? How do you bring yourself back to just grateful Jodi?
That's tough. It's really tough right now. I've only been out for not even 2 years, and I think that our military has changed drastically since I got out.
Yeah.
Just to see the dress and appearance standards have changed. My husband still works on base, so he comes and tells me, some of the things that he sees, like, oh, you want to believe this,
Right.
But what keeps me grounded, I guess, and I guess that's my personal bubble, is like thinking about like 9/11 and how united our country was after 9/11.
Yes. It was amazing.
And will we ever, 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 ever get back to being that united. Obviously, there has to be a huge change from our politicians. And I honestly don't know if we'll ever get back to that. And it's hard to be a war fighter if you're not coming from a united front.
Right.
At the end of the day, it's all for the greater good of the United States of America. And if we don't have that being forced loud and clear on our troops, is it going to come across to them loud and clear? I don't know. That's a tough one.
That's great perspective. But, here, I agree with you on many points, because a distracted army is the worst army that you can ever have. A distracted United States is the worst United States you can have. And listen, the war, I'm not worried about a missile hitting us. I'm worried about us hitting our own country. But that's a whole nother discussion for a podcast of the conspiracy theorists. But Jodi, is there anything you want to ask me? And then I'm going to close this out.
No, just thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you for letting me share my story. I love that, you're all about people sharing their stories. And I completely agree that if you listen long enough, there's something that will be uncovered, and that is worth value.
Yes.
So, yeah.
You listen enough. Everyone has a story. It's true. So with that being said, first of all, I want to thank you for your 21 years of service to our country. I want to say thank you for signing your name in blood, ultimately to cast a check that, no person wants to ever cash. I want to honor your friend, Amy. I want to make sure, when you walk, that we have that imprinted somewhere on either duct tape or whatever it is, so we can stick it on you. Or if your picture is going to be laminated and stuck on the back of your backpack, I will train you. I will push. I will not let you quit. I will keep you accountable, and we will push her story, and we will honor her name. And you're going to tell me stories about her. You're going to share stories with your fellow veterans and civilians that are in formation. We will build this village. We will build a place, a sanctuary where we can help and serve these veterans. And I just need someone to tell me that I can't do it. I'm still waiting for that. But Jodi, when people say, how do you do it all? I don't even want to say that to you, because I know how you do it all. I know where your heart is. And I know that you're just not a yes person to everything. You're in your lane. You want to help. One bit of advice, though, is it doesn't matter if you serve the world cheesecake. Someone's going to ask for chocolate anyway, right? It doesn't matter, right? If you hear everybody, see, it's like this. You give them free cheesecake and they say, oh, I wanted chocolate. Okay. But I was up all night and I served 200 pieces of cheesecake, and you're the one person. I bless them. I apologize, and I feel bad that they're missing out. But what can you do? So that's the bit of advice I have for you. I'm looking forward to building this friendship. I don't just want to say this. I am very blessed to have met you. I connect very well with people who are introspective and who want to out themselves by saying, I'm not perfect Instagram filter people, right? I mean, I've been real since MySpace. Let's be honest, right? There was no filters on MySpace. But Jodi, you're awesome. Busy Bee Bakery, wish all of God's blessings on the business, but just the lives that it touches, right? The money is secondary, but the joy comes first. The mission is first. And I look forward to meeting your mother. And I really want to spend a few minutes and just share my sentiment of her daughter with her, so that I know she knows what I'm going to say, but I want her to hear it from my introspective. So with that being said, I'm going to leave the links for Busy Bakery on Facebook. I'm going to make sure that you can order. I'm going to make it as easy as possible. We are going to raise this up. This is going to be our mission until November 18th. That is the final cutoff date, correct?
Correct.
So much goodness to come about. We are going to push. And you know what? Jodi's already alluded to it. She's got a lot of ideas. And guess what? I'm going to listen to all of them. So with that being said, thank you so much for listening to The Connection. Thank you for connecting with us. And Jodi, most of all, thank you for our connection.
Yes, thank you.